Big news is coming in from Syria, and the way the Western media is covering it is, at best, wishful thinking. It is hard to tell what will happen next in the Middle East, but understanding reality is a good, solid starting point. So let's start with what is going on, and I will explain why I think Iran will be the next target of the Israeli military. Looking at the headlines in the media in the West, you might think Syria has a bright future now that Assad has been relocated to his friend in Russia. Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, the rebel leader, is being portrayed as some sort of kindly figure. The BBC, from Syrian jihadist leader to rebel politician. How Abu Muhammad al-Jolani reinvented himself. Sky News, West has nothing to fear from Syria. The Times, Jolani is polite. The Telegraph, moderate jihadists tell troops not to frighten children. After reading all these headlines, I want al-Jolani to babysit my kids. It is not just the newspapers. I don't usually watch The Daily Show, as it is hard for me to see the over-exaggerated facial expressions pulled by Jon Stewart. But I was curious to see how liberals in the US see things, and I wasn't surprised. It seems that it is better to live under al-Jolani than under Trump.
I don't like jihad anymore, Dad. I'm into horses. Jelani's purported transformation to a more benevolent governance gives me hope as our country goes through its hopefully peaceful transfer of power to hopefully a more humbled and mature leader as well.
In his first network TV interview since the election, President-elect Donald Trump says he would like to see members of the January 6th committee sent to jail.
Honestly, they should go to jail.
Or not. That is, of course, the incoming United States president, and I'm assuming future statue haver, Donald Trump, who this weekend was in Europe.
Is there a chance that al-Jolani will establish a democratic, moderate Muslim country where minorities enjoy full human rights? There is always a chance, but I'm not overly optimistic, and here is why. The Arab Spring saw protests breaking out in many Muslim countries. Tell me, in how many of these countries that protested did the situation get better? In Tunisia, it was better for a few years, but now the wheels are turning backwards. In how many of these Muslim countries did it get worse? Pretty much all of them. How many Muslims have been killed by other Muslims since the Arab Spring began? About 1.5 million. 500,000 in Syria, 500,000 in Yemen, 150,000 in Iraq, and hundreds of thousands in Libya, Sudan, and other countries. The headlines may lie, but the numbers don't. I'm pretty sure that until you saw this video, you weren't even aware that about 1.5 million Muslims murdered other Muslims during the Arab Spring. Or let's use the proper term, the Muslim winter. Now, if that is not the definition of a failure, I don't know what is. I am a person with low standards, but even I know that a 0% success rate is low. It's important to be optimistic, but once you have gone beyond a certain point, you are being delusional. And sadly, that's what's happening with the media. In high school, we had a saying, it is okay for you to lie to me, but please stop lying to yourself. And in the case of the Western media, stop pretending that democracy and human rights are on the horizon for the Muslim world. Now, I want to be very clear. I wish the Syrian people all the best, and I really do hope that after a brutal civil war, they will be able to enjoy democracy and prosperity, and that all the different ethnic groups will be able to work together without resorting to violence. But we need to be realistic. The war was not a straightforward conflict between Assad, the tyrannical ruler, and the noble rebels. It was a war between Assad, the tyrannical ruler, and a lot of different groups that are not much better than him. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and a few others. Are they all bad? Of course not. There are some good guys. There is, for instance, the Democratic Union Party. Still, many of the groups are made up of Islamic fundamentalists who want Syria and then the rest of the world to be Islamic states governed by Sharia law, like Afghanistan. If you don't like what I'm saying, then please prove me wrong. Tell me in the comments where you find democracy and human rights in Muslim countries. Even the Muslim communities in the most liberal cities, in the most liberal countries in the world, Berlin, London, Wisconsin, Amsterdam, a lot of them are for the introduction of Sharia law. But back to Syria. Have you been wondering why the rebels succeeded at exactly this point in time? What led to their sudden success after 13 years of war? The answer lies in the eradication of Hezbollah in Lebanon by Israel. Let me explain. Iran supported Assad. Iran did send some high-ranking officers to Damascus, but Hezbollah provided the boots on the ground. Hezbollah was doing all the fighting for Assad, and their fighters were brutal. Once Hezbollah was done, about 5 minutes after Israel finished them off, the rebels took up the fight. It is essential to acknowledge that. The Sunni rebels waited until the Shia had been weakened and then they attacked. So is this going to be good for Israel? We don't know yet. Assad was the devil we knew, and we don't yet know the nature and intentions of the Sunni extremists. Both hate Israel, of course. That's one thing we know. This, by the way, is the biggest problem in the Muslim world. They love blaming Israel and the US for all their problems. Peace will come when Muslim society is mature enough to criticize itself. When Muslims are able to say, maybe the reason we all live in dictatorships in the midst of violent chaos is not because of the Jews, but because of our own values. Sadly, it is not going that way right now, and it is not likely to in the future. But the current situation in Syria actually gives Israel an opportunity to strike at the head of the snake, the Iranian regime. The war that started on October 7th is a war that leads straight back to Iran. The Iranian regime's hatred for Israel is the purest example of the sick and obsessive hatred that Muslims feel towards Israel. The Israelis have nothing against the Persians. In fact, Israel has long had a connection to Persia. Israel and Iran are 1,000 kilometers away from each other. We don't burn the Iranian flag on the streets like they do. Our MPs don't shout out death to Iran like they do. Iran funds Hamas, Iran funds Hezbollah, and Iran funds the Houthis in Yemen. And now that Syria has fallen, Israel has an opportunity to confront the root of the issue. As an Israeli, I can't say many good things about October 7th. It was one of the hardest days we've ever experienced. But there is one good thing that I can say. We are very fortunate that Hamas didn't coordinate their attack with Hezbollah. Had they done that, Hezbollah would have conquered half of the Galilee. Hezbollah is 100 times stronger than Hamas. Or perhaps I would better say, it was 100 times stronger than Hamas. The number of weapons that the Israeli army found in Lebanon would have been sufficient for an entire army. This was not some terror group with a few Toyotas and a handful of Kalashnikovs at its disposal. The villages in southern Lebanon were huge Iranian bases with tunnels, rockets, missiles, and thousands of trained soldiers. Israel can't allow the Iranian to rebuild this kind of army on the borders of Israel ever again. Not in Lebanon and not in Syria. Israel entered the buffer zone between Israel and Syria so that no Islamist of any kind would be able to enter this strategically important area. Some in the international community, France among others, have called for Israel to withdraw. But it is worth pointing out that the Syrian villages in the buffer zone were like, no, Israel, please stay. When we see how the Iranian regime treats its own people, we know what they will do to us given half a chance. It is essential to understand this in order to understand why Israel is so eager to eliminate this threat. Now it has the opportunity to do so. Syria had really strong air defense systems, supported by the Russians. Now the Russians are gone, Israel can operate freely in the region. Now that the Iranian proxies have fallen in Lebanon and Syria, most Israelis are of the opinion that we need to tackle the true enemy, Iran. This is my take on events, and it is probably also the mainstream Israeli view. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you will subscribe to my channel. And I truly hope that Muslim society will stop hating us and start to reflect more on the problems they have at home. And did you get my Jerusalem course already? The link is below. I want to thank all my supporters. You are the ones who keeping me going. Yalla bye.